Okay. There we go. Can everybody hear me okay? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Kathy. Good afternoon, good morning, Alicia. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our beautiful sacred space today. Let's pause and just take a breath or two together. Let's drop in, settle in, and just acknowledge ourselves for the effort that it's taken to get here in this moment. If this is spontaneous for you or if it was planned, every single moment of your lived experience in this physical body up until now has led us to sharing space and time right here and right now together. And isn't that just how every present moment experience unfolds? So it's beautiful just to drop into that, to witness that, acknowledge it. Each breath is sacred, each moment. My nervous system is settling. Yawning is a wonderful symbol of that happening, so you might want to notice, if you haven't already, when your body yawns. It's a sign of the parasympathetic nervous system. It's a sign of your brainwave state changing in I want to say downshifting, which for me personally makes sense because I was just buying a plane ticket like 10 minutes ago and having to use a credit voucher, and it didn't work last time, and so there was a little bit of stress happening, and also I was like, I want to get this done before the live stream, and I did. So if you want to yawn, if my yawning creates that for your body, just allow that to unfold, allow that to happen. Today we're going to be talking about when playing small is no longer an option. When playing small is no longer an option. So I wonder about this for you all that are here, what that brings up for you. You know, naturally, it likely will make you think about, where have I been playing small in my life? Where am I playing small? And then where does it feel like that's no longer an option? There comes a moment in all of our lives, and even in different periods of our lives, where shrinking, hiding, dimming your light just is not in alignment with your soul anymore. So we're going to look at that edge that's between who and what you've been, who you're becoming, and then how to take that step with courage and clarity, or how to lean into the process just a little bit more. Interesting that I'm wanting to yawn. Welcome, Elaine. Good afternoon. Or good evening. Good early evening. So, if you are new to me, welcome. So glad that you're here. I have been a teacher here on Insight Timer for 5 years now, going live very consistently for almost that entire time. So if you're new and you feel called to, please give me a follow here. And for those of you that are already a part of the community, so glad that you're here. I appreciate each of your presence, your energy, your contribution. Again, if it's your first time or your 100th time. We had a wonderful live stream event the other day where I celebrated 5 years on Insight Timer as a teacher, and I did offer a giveaway for a gifted session with me. So I have not announced it in my group yet, and just in case they are here, April is the winner of the giveaway. So I will announce it in my group in Insight Timer. It's called Natalie's Healing Circle. So if you'd like to join in that group, we can stay connected outside of the live streams. And I will make the announcement in there as well. Wonderful, Elaine. So glad to have you. So there's many ways that you can follow me and stay connected here. YouTube as well, where I'm live streaming this also. All my replays are there as well. Facebook and Instagram, my website as well. I also have a new Etsy shop I have launched with digital resources for breakups and toxic relationship recovery. So if you are hurting from a toxic relationship or from a breakup, please check out my shop. And there's many very powerful, affordable resources there. And the name of my shop is Heartbreak Recovery Co. Or you can send me a message and I can send you the link. Right now, as I'm building my shop, any purchases and reviews will really help me. So I would appreciate that if you feel called. And regardless, I'm just glad we're here together sharing this space. I will pull up. Hold on. Can y'all hear that? Anyway, my next live stream after this is on May 3rd, Sunday, when you feel worse after they pull away. So we're going to be diving into some of those dynamics around attachment, anxious attachment, trauma bonding, and all of those things. So if you've experienced that, if you're still trying to recover, if you're in it right now, please join in. And today, as I said, we're going to be talking about when playing small is no longer an option. So I was thinking about myself in my own life. I want to kick us off with an example. And really kind of the one that's top of mind, that's quite easy for me to tune into and share about, because it's so stark, it's so black and white, is my situation and my story with my job history, my recent job history. So I know a few of you may have heard this story before, and it's such a good example of many different things. And as far as this idea about playing small, it really resonates. So I was in corporate America at a job that, it wasn't horrible and it wasn't amazing. I worked there almost 13 years. I started out working in the office, just at a normal job, back in 2008. And I very quickly kind of created my own position, and then I was working at home, and I was I kind of just, with everything that I was doing, I said yes to everything. I worked my way up. And then just through life circumstances, many of you have heard about different details of my life. The important part of it is that I ended up moving overseas, and I ended up working online at that job. So I took it completely remote back in 2013, before that was really a thing. And, I loved that part of it. I loved having full freedom, ability to work remote anywhere in the world, any time of day or night, and have this corporate America job. And, it wasn't perfect. And over the years, I just, there was many factors that contributed. Of course, I had my own part. And it was a toxic work environment with a lot of miscommunication, gossip, petty dramas. And it was in the mental health and substance abuse not-for-profit sector. So even just the nature of, our clients and the population that we worked with, the energy, when you're working with indigent people, homeless people, low-bottom addicts, severely mentally ill people, it does rub off on the company and the organization and the people that, help those people. So, there's many different factors that played into that. And, me working online, being very isolated, just looking at a computer, doing what I was doing every day all the time. Also, I just felt very not stimulated. So is there anybody here that can just relate to any kind of work dynamics like that, or just feeling, I just felt resigned to what I was doing. Of course, I was always grateful every day to have the freedom and flexibility, and also the actual job itself ceased being stimulating or challenging, and I started putting in the bare minimum myself because I wasn't inspired, I wasn't excited. And then I started, it started when I moved overseas, of just feeling, I was full of fear. I was full of fear once I discovered this remote lifestyle, that if my job ever ended, my whole entire life would end. Because this job was the foundation of the lifestyle that I had grown to love, of being able to travel and live around the world. But after, I'll just say the last 5 years of it, I grew to just really resent it, despise it, but I felt stuck. I felt so damn stuck. How many of you can relate to feeling stuck in a situation and feeling like there is no way out and you can't see a way out? Give an emoji in the chat or a word that expresses how that was for you, or maybe you're feeling it right now. But I was boxed in because of my mind. My mind told me, this is the best gig you'll ever have. This is the only job you're ever going to be able to get that gives you the freedom and the pay that you want, and you're living overseas and all of that. And so I clung to that job. Just, I white-knuckled it. I was totally full of fear and clinging. And, then I got more and more paranoid in the last few years because I wasn't doing a good job. I was basically just, punching the clock and doing the bare minimum. And I just got this feeling, my soul was nudging me that you know, something's going to happen. It can't be this way forever. And if you lose your job, like, your life is over. So I was terrified. I was terrified to let it go, even though I wasn't happy. So I just felt very boxed in and small. So this was definitely me settling, tolerating, and just trying to make it through day by day, and just crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. And then something happened, which many of you have heard the story before, but it was December 21st, 2020 at 12 midnight. So the numerology was in place, the planets were in place. It was the night of the Great Conjunction, Jupiter and Saturn being at 0 degrees conjunct. It only happens every 600 years. And I was on the beach in Thailand at this kirtan celebration for the Great Conjunction. You know, we saw it in the sky, and I knew that I had this work meeting at midnight. And I was like, oh my God, something is going to happen. I don't know what. I had a sense that it probably wasn't going to be good. And not that it wasn't good, because that's a judgment call, but it wasn't pleasant, that's for damn sure. They told me, if you don't move back to the US on your own dime during COVID, no severance pay, no unemployment. After 13 years, you have no job anymore. And that rocked my world. It was a tower moment, as I call it. And, you know, looking back, the signs had been there for years. My soul had been communicating with me, nudging me. You need change. It's time to get out. Something has to happen. But my fear overrode my intuition and overrode, you know, that nudging of my soul. So I'm wondering if anybody who can relate to that, where in your life have you felt your soul being like, okay, you know, you need to change, you need to move, something's got to happen, but you're like, no, 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 no. I'm just going to stay in here and I don't have to do anything. Well, you know, it went on for years, me being in that energy, until that happened. And it's like, you know, we get nudges when we're playing small, when we're just doing the bare minimum. And, you know, I feel like the universe gives us time until it's like, no more. This cannot be. I have something more in store for you. So it was like, I could have chosen and I didn't. So then it was like, okay, tower moment. Now I could have said yes to my job and said, okay, I'll move back to the US. I'll start working in, because this is what they said, you know, you need to work in the office again and all of this. I could have said yes to that, but my soul was like, hell no, there is no way. It would not let me stay small. It would not let me settle anymore. You know, the minute they gave me their terms, my soul was like, hell fucking no. No way. I know, J.E. Hello, by the way. Yeah. It was interesting. So it was like playing small wasn't an option anymore. But my fear overrode that until fate, whatever, intervened. Hi, Kelly. Yes. December 21st, 2020. You know, and how many of you have been let go like that from a career or a job? To me, that was like the longest relationship I'd ever had. 13 years. I'd never had a relationship with a person that long other than whatever, my parents and siblings. It was like a very jarring, traumatic breakup, but it was so freeing because I was so done with that job and that dynamic energetically and on a soul level. So, you know, the cost of me staying in that for years was just this settling and this paranoia and this just dis-ease. And there was a lot of judgment of myself. It was not in alignment. It was out of alignment. It was out of integrity. So I want you all to think about whatever this is for you, because we all have our own examples. And this was, as I said, you know, almost 5.5 years ago now. You might be in the middle of your, you know, playing small moment right now. Or maybe, you know the change is coming, or maybe you've just come out of something like that. And I just really want you to, I really want to highlight from my story of just, it's very energetic what happened. This soul yearning, this intuition that was nudging me. And we all have that inner guidance, and we all have that inner compass. And you know, the minute that they told me this, and I was like, hell no. In my mind, I didn't say immediately no to them. I was like, let me think about it, even though I knew I would be a no. But due to a separate chain of events, I knew, because this was happening, that I was meant to start life coaching ASAP. When I didn't feel ready. And that's exactly what happened. So, you know, I was so ready for change, and I was so ready to step into this role in new career as a spiritual life coach. You know, of course I had thoughts, I'm not good enough, or all that stuff, those playing small thoughts. You know, who am I to think that I could help other people in this way? How many of you have had that thought? Who am I to be able to do this? Well, who are you not to? And for me, I believed more in that moment, who am I not to be the one to do this? That pulled me forward. So playing small was not an option. I dove in. And this is how I'm here with you now. And as y'all heard, if you were in the giveaway live stream, that, yeah, I mean, this event with my job happened, I became a coach, and then a few months later, I came on here as a teacher, and here we are. And so this is what I'm very well equipped to help others with. So if this is speaking to you, follow your heart's call and reach out to me. I help people stop negotiating with their power and start standing in their power. And when that happens, everything shifts. It definitely happened for me. So I want you to consider, where in your life are you playing small? Maybe you're muting yourself. Maybe you're constantly censoring yourself. It could be at work. It could be in a relationship, a friendship, a family dynamic. Any of those things. Maybe you're asking for less. Maybe it's a job situation where it's time for your yearly review and you feel you deserve a raise. It's okay for you to have needs. If you grew up in a dysfunctional childhood, likely you learned to not have needs because everyone else's needs were more important. So that's a form of playing small. Where are you settling for less? Because it feels easier. Now, when we do these things, and this is what I always point out in my life coaching, you know, there's a light side and a shadow side to everything. So if you are playing small, if you are just settling and tolerating things and not speaking up or not standing in your truth or any of that, you're getting a benefit from it. We don't just want to look at these dynamics and think, oh, I'm bad. It's bad that I'm doing this. It's bad that I'm playing small. No. And we want to throw out the whole good, bad thing anyway. But we want to look at, where are you actually, where is this helping you? What benefit are you getting from it? I mean, for me, staying in that job and settling for that long, you know, it gave me some sense of security. But nothing secure in reality. But you might feel more safe if you're playing small. You might feel more in control. It might get you approval from others or belonging. You might be fitting in. So where do you feel ready to rise in your life right now? Give one word in the chat. Where are you ready to rise? And just remembering too, like, this whole playing small is just a strategy to stay safe. It's not about being weak or flawed or something wrong with you. It's an outdated coping adaptation from childhood, most likely. So, you know, what once kept you alive, kept you safe, is now a cage. And you're outgrowing that. In my example, like, I felt like a big gorilla in this small cage of my job. And the other cool thing about that story is that I was in a deep transformation that entire year leading up to that point. I was changing who I was at a deep foundational level. And so it totally makes sense that when I became the more evolved version of myself, that version of Natalie no longer had that job. So I really want you to let that land. And you can think about this with career or with family or any sort of relationship. And you've probably heard this before, like, When you change, you lose relationships. Wonderful, Elaine. People will either grow with you or go. And so when I had this deep and rapid transformation, that did not fit with the version of myself that I became. That job no longer fit. It fit for almost 13 years. And then it started not fitting for the last 5, and that's why it felt so uncomfortable. But if you think about this for yourself, you know, the version of you that has the things that you want in your future, you are going to need to become that version of yourself that has those things. Does that make sense? Because that's really important. I always like to use the example too of like my sobriety and my recovery. You know, when I got sober 27 years ago, that version of me, you know, had very different circumstances in her life. You know, I had no money, I had nothing, I had no big dreams or goals. I was just trying to survive and get and stay clean and sober after being a really horrible alcoholic and drug addict. So that version of Natalie could not have the life that I have today. I had to become this version of me that now has all of the results that I have in my life. This version of me has a certain bank account balance that version could never have imagined. And it's not, again, it's not that one's better than the other, it's just different. And I've said this many times, we are on this infinite upward spiral of evolution. And so it's just different. It's just a different place on the path. So if anything, you get to have compassion for those past versions of you. So if you want support around this, I will offer to those of you who haven't worked with me before my powerful visioning process, and we will look at where are you playing small right now? Where is your soul screaming at you on the inside like it's time to change, and maybe there's fear and doubt? And we will dive into all that and get clarity and altitude so that you can have a clear path forward. So if you feel the nudge to do so, send me a message. You can even just say vision in the message. You can send it through Insight Timer, anywhere that I am, social platforms, website, all of that. And that's all in my teacher profile here. So you can click the link in my profile. So we want to look at what are the signs that you might still be playing small. And a big one is minimizing yourself. Where do you discount, diminish, minimize your wins or the things you do well? If somebody compliments you, how do you receive a compliment? You might be like, oh, it was nothing. How many of you have done that before? Or if they compliment your clothes, oh, this little thing, I got it on sale for $5 at the garage sale. These are ways of playing small. You might also put off taking action until you feel ready. That's a big one. And that's, you know, one reason why I never took action when I was in my job. I mean, I wouldn't have even known what to do aside from looking online for another job, which I was way too terrified to do. And I did not feel ready. You might also dim your excitement or your joy or your enthusiasm so others feel comfortable. That really shows up in family dynamics, like toxic family dynamics. If the family is miserable, generally, you might not feel comfortable sharing your joy or your wins or your enthusiasm with others in those sorts of dynamics. And you might silence yourself instead of speaking the truth to keep the peace. Do you see the common thread here? And you might have this inner knowing, like, as I said, a big part of my story I've told is just this inner sense of like, this isn't working. I felt like my soul was literally screaming, get out of this job for years, and I would not listen. And I just would settle, even though I knew it just didn't feel in alignment, and I rationalized it. And so why do we do that? Fear, of course. Fear of failure, that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid of failure, I was afraid of judgment. With the family thing, the toxic family stuff, Elaine, loyalty to others' comfort. Our family sees us in a certain way. And likely they have us in a box of the way that they've known us when we were young, and we've changed. And it's very hard for the people closest to us to accept our change. So we might, when we get back into, being around family, we might revert back to those older versions of ourselves because that's what they expect to see, and it keeps them comfortable. So what can you do about this? First, recognize it's happening, and I'm such an advocate of dropping into your body to notice this. And you all have enough awareness, and you've been on this journey enough to where you can do this. Of like, when you're around others and in interactions, tune into your body just for a moment. Oh, wow, what's it feeling like in here right now? And your body will give you signals and cues. There might be tightness, contraction, constriction, shallow breathing. You might even notice your posture. And you can even ask yourself as you wake up in that moment, what am I afraid of? Just as a question, just to drop in for a moment with yourself. And you can take one conscious breath or a few. And then you can see, what is this moment asking of me? In my example with my job, if I was really in a place where I was not ready and I was playing small, I would have gone along with their request. I would have said, okay, I'll do it. I'll move back to the US during COVID, paying my own way, moving within a few hours of the office, having to come back in. I will do it. That would have been the playing small version. But my soul was like a big hell fucking no. It was screaming inside. That's literally how it felt, like a multi-dimensional soul scream. Maybe y'all have heard the little phrase of like, I'm a full body yes, or I'm a full body hell yes, like you feel into your body to get a yes or a no. This one was the biggest no my body probably has ever given. And thank God I was, I'd transformed enough, and it just was a perfect storm to where I knew I could not sell my soul for safety, even though it would make sense because, ooh, it's COVID, ooh, everything's uncertain, oh, there's no jobs, or people are getting fired, or blah, blah, blah. And one of the biggest things, speaking of dysfunctional families, I was afraid of what my mother would think, honestly. I was terrified to tell her. And it was interesting when I did tell her the way I worded it, because I was playing small in that moment, and that's okay. But I just said something like, I don't have my job any longer, or my job is ending. I think I said my job is ending. And then my mother was very apologetic and sorry. And then I clarified and I said, actually, I rejected them. I rejected their job offer. I am retiring from corporate America, and they gave me an offer and I said no. And then her tone changed. She was like, oh, well, I hope you're making the right decision. How many of you can relate to being on the other end of that with a mother or family? Wonderful, Elaine. Yes, it sounds like you're ready to release your inhibitions, be more authentic, stop playing small. And yeah, if you feel to reach out for that gifted visioning process, you can do so along with anybody else here. When you expand into what your soul is calling you into, you're living your dharma, your purpose, your expansion. So what's one specific place that you are ready to stop playing small? And it doesn't have to be like the big example I gave. It might be for some of you, but it could be just maybe even in a friendship or a work acquaintance or a neighbor. Like, it doesn't have to be like, your mom or your parents or whatever, or your boss or your spouse. It could be. But where are you ready to stop playing small? And then what would be a micro action to take towards stepping into your greatness just a little bit more? Maybe it's a message that you'll send, one risk you'll take this week, or one truth you'll speak. Or maybe if it's around job, it might be sending off one resume or whatever. And every time you take these little micro steps into expansion, into your power, into your sovereignty, you are proving to your nervous system that it's safe for you to be powerful and step into your power. You teach your body, you teach your nervous system through these micro actions. And that's also what I do in my sessions often. I will slow people down, and I will have us drop into the body and drop into the moment and notice and feel and breathe. And it is so powerful. It sounds so simple, but it's so powerful because we get, when we think about these things, when we talk about these things, this energy gets activated, and then the fear, and then it's ungrounded. So really having a space and a container and a facilitator to help you, let's drop in. and really get into the somatics of the body and how it feels, trains yourself, that safety in the body, and you feeling safe in your body is the number one thing you can do to improve your quality of life. And I really want you to hear that. So you get to train and learn that through micro actions, even as I said, what I do with people in session. We just slow down into what's happening now in the body. Hi, Nicola. That sounds like a complicated dynamic. Great that you're restarting therapy today. However we get support is wonderful. So just remember, playing small protected us, but it's a maladaptation that is no longer needed as an adult. For most of us, we had to adapt as children to survive, to keep that attachment intact with our primary caregivers, is where it starts. And it's no longer needed because you are a functioning, capable, powerful, sovereign being. And you get to relearn that. And not let this maladaptation limit you. And again, it doesn't have to be, doing the huge thing. It might be, or it might be the baby step. And if this resonates, as I said, reach out for that visioning session with me. And we will dive into this for you specifically and help you get clarity that will help you to move forward one step at a time and create something different. I mean, who knows? Look at me and my example, wow, this life of my dreams, even bigger. My life was still great before, but wow, even more. It was on the other side of me not playing small anymore. And that's available for you. Everything you want is on